Hey, for a limited time, you can join Better Than Happy Zone for just $1. You can get in there and try out all of those wonderful trainings, techniques, and practices to free yourself of your hangups and blockages and to help you experience a deep inner sense of well-being. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Go to betterthanhappyzone.com. You're listening to the Sort Yourself Out podcast, and this week we are going to rev up some good vibes and happiness with my special guest, award-winning author, speaker, and coach, Deborah Ann Davis. I'm your host, Janine Hunt, natural health therapist for over 30 years, hypnotherapist, lifelong learner, and student of the Ageless Wisdom. Here on the Sort Yourself Out podcast and in my Better Than Happy Zone membership, I teach powerful top-down techniques and practices so that you can master your mind and emotions, free yourself of what's holding you back, expand your consciousness, and nourish your soul. So let's get started. Well, hello there, and thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're ready to rev up some good vibes and happiness in your life, as today I have a special guest joining us, and she is going to help us do all of that to bring some more happiness into our lives. My guest is Deborah Ann Davis. Deborah is an award-winning author, speaker, and coach with over 3 decades of experience in middle and high school education. She now applies all of her experience in education to coaching parenting skills, helping families replace the typical pain and adolescent angst of the tween and teenage years with positive and healthy relationships. Deborah is the author of How to Keep Your Daughter from Slamming the Door and How to Get Your Happy On, as well as the Love Affairs series of books. Today, I'm going to be picking Deborah's brains to find out how we can get our happy on. So let's get started, because I know that we can all use more of that. Hi, Deborah. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, it's completely my pleasure.
Well, I really love your book, How to Get Your Happy On. It's so full of wisdom and practical things we can do to make a big shift in our happiness, as well as finding deeper meaning in our lives. How did you come to write it?
Well, I know that 2020 was a disaster year for most people, but for me, it was 2019 was the worst year ever. And there was a series of things that happened, including family illnesses, and my publisher went belly up, and an anthology I was supposed to be part of folded. I got bit by a dog. I ended up getting sick for like a month, and it went through a series of sicknesses, like everything from some kind of flu with fluid in my lungs to pink eye to laryngitis to, it was just a bad year. And then my husband lost the use of his arm.
Wow.
And I know, and he does labor for work in construction. So he decided, he used to be a emergency care nurse, so he has a medical background. So he was trying to figure out how to help himself, and he tried everything, acupuncture and massage and acupressure and what do you call it? A chiropractor and cortisone shots. I mean, he tried so hard, but he was walking around holding his arm and going, all the time. And then when I was sick, I couldn't even go near him because I was so scared of being sick and compounding his situation. And it was just awful. So finally, he said, he went to a doctor and they decided he needed to have surgery. He needed to have some discs replaced in his neck. So in the United States, they said, you need to have 3 discs replaced, but we only are authorized to do 2. So that means you have to have 2 operations. The first operation is going to cost you $65,000 out of pocket because your insurance is not going to pay for it.
Wow.
And we were like stunned. We're going to have to do $65,000 and then another operation on top of that. So my husband said, well, if we're going to pay for it, then I'm going to get the best doctor there is. So we ended up going to Germany, which the doctor we used was the doctor who trains the American doctors in this surgery. Plus, over here, we'd have one night worth of surgery. I mean, one night in the hospital. Over there, for $20,000 less, they did all 3 discs in the same operation. They gave him 6 nighs in the hospital and 8 nights in a rehab center. They put me up. They fed both of us the whole time. They provided our transportation everywhere. And the day that he woke up from the surgery, his arm was good.
Wow.
It was incredible. But one of the things that happened here was we called our daughter to inform her about the surgery and the cost and everything. And while we were talking, you could hear, she was typing on the computer, and she goes, well, there's ways to raise money and stuff, and so there's this thing called GoFundMe. I don't know if you've ever heard of GoFundMe, but there, I just made you a page. So we had a GoFundMe page for this thing. And because of the way my husband and I function within the world, where we help people and we do things for people and we encourage people, I sent out an email to everybody and I said, this is what's going on. And we were able to raise $30,000 in a month.
That's
just
fantastic.
from people donating, like $25 here and $100 there and some bigger amounts. But it was like people were coming out of the woodwork, and it was so incredibly humbling. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie with Jimmy Stewart. It's An Incredible Life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the title. And no. Is that
Wonderful
the title?
Life.
It's a wonderful life. Thank you. I was just feeling about how incredible things were. The last scene when everybody comes in the town and starts throwing change into that basket, that's exactly what it felt like. And people were donating who were friends of people because people said, I know this person, they really need the help. So we're still coming out from under the mountain of medical bills and stuff. Oh, and then one of his relatives works for an airline. So we were able to do the flights for just 10% of the cost.
Nice.
So all around, everybody just helped us. So I told you all of that so I could tell you this. The reason why I wrote that book was because I was so low during that time, and I knew I needed to be more upbeat for my husband. So I started researching ways to do that were not medically based. And I found the physically based solutions. And writing the book was my way to say thank you to everybody who donated. I sent out a copy to everybody I could reach.
Wow.
So
that's fantastic.
That's where the book came from.
You talk in your book about being able to take charge of your own happiness. So what do you mean by that?
For example, right now in this stage of my life, I'm dealing with aging parents, and that can be somewhat upsetting. And I don't know if you know this analogy. This is kind of like a science teacher analogy, but if you put a frog in cold water and heat it up, the frog will die because it won't notice the increasing change because it's incremental. But if you drop them into hot water, they'll jump out of it because it will be too sudden of a change. When we have incremental changes, we don't notice it. So as your stress hormones are increasing and your mood is dropping, you don't notice it because it's a creep along type thing. It's not like a loss of a family member, which is sudden. And I've been hit badly emotionally, and this is something I got to recover from. The other kind of stuff, it creeps up on you and you're not aware of it. So what I'm talking about is having these tools that you have these tools and you use them to interrupt that creep along thing. You say, well, I'm going to do this every morning. And if you feel a really big difference, you'll say, I know that this creep along thing is increasing. I need to do these tools more often.
And it's such a big thing as well. It's so empowering to know that we have the ability ourselves to have an effect over these things. We're not at the mercy of these things. It's an
Exactly.
element of, I think, knowing that you can have an effect and then being willing. I know sometimes people can feel so low that it's hard to drudge up the effort to make themselves feel better. But once you do it and you're aware that there are things you can do to make that shift, you've just got so much power.
Exactly. Exactly. And they're not big things. They're just little things that you can do. And, I've been on the couch and thinking, oh, I just don't feel like doing anything. And then recognizing that that's me feeling low. And then I think, well, you don't have to stay here. I don't care. I'm just going to wallow in it for a while. And then I think, well, I'll just do one of those things. Here's a really good way to test it. And so I'll do one, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it again. And then I'll think, I'm going to get off the couch and get something to eat. And then when I'm in the middle of looking through the refrigerator, I realize, hey, it worked. And there wasn't any like flash of joy that went through me. It just interrupted my little downward spiral.
Yeah, that's right. That's and you get to have something to eat. Second joy. So your book covers 10 proven ways to get your happy on. So could you share some of those with us now?
Sure. Don't expect me to get through all 10 because I've never been able to complete any kind of list. I always leave something off.
Yeah, just a few ideas. I'd love to hear some of the things that love to hear you tell us about some of the things you talk about in your book.
Well, the first one, the main one, is the one that everybody ignores, and that is to take care of yourself first. That actually creates more happy hormones in your body than everything else. And women typically put themselves last.
Yeah.
They take care of everyone else. And then that bath that they were going to take and be quiet and relax by themselves gets thrown out the window if something else comes up. So if taking care of yourself is the one most important thing. And it isn't just about your health. It's about making a decision to take care of yourself is an empowering thing. It is a place of control of your life where you're saying, I am taking control. No, the bath is only going to be for 5 minutes because this other thing is there, but I am taking the damn bath. So that is what taking care of yourself is about. And then the ripple effect from that one is if you have any kids and you're modeling for them, you always take care of others first. You always defer to others first. The others count more than you always. Then you're teaching them to defer in their adult lives. You're teaching them that, like, especially for girls, defer to peer pressure, defer to what the group is saying, defer to what the other undeveloped teenage brains want.
Yeah.
So if you say, no, I'm taking care of me, I'm controlling my life, I'm looking out for what's best for me. And when I do that, that's what's best for you.
Yeah.
Then that's a powerful message to be sending our children. Because wouldn't it be great if they're saying in their little child voices, I'm taking care of me, I'm looking out for me, I'm making sure that I'm not going to go behind the building and smoke something because everybody else is doing it. That doesn't do anything good for me.
Yeah.
So,
and I can relate to that one because I was one of those kids that went behind the building and smoked something with everyone else because of the pressure.
It's a generational thing, right? This kid who's the oldest one who's encouraging the other ones. 4 years ago, they were the youngest one being pulled out behind the building. Yeah. They don't know any better.
And then you've also got that ripple effect too of when you have had that bath and you're relaxed and you're feeling like you've done something for yourself, that just spreads out and helps out everyone around you. You know, you're a much nicer person to be around. You're more willing to play and, you know, you're just in a much better state of mind to give to other people anyhow. So it's like you didn't give by deferring your own well-being in the first place, but you've got so much more to give in the long run.
That's right. And isn't that an excellent thing to model for your kids?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one.
So that's why I say that's the most important one. I know other experts might say other ones are most important, but I think that this is the foundation upon which everything else is built.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got to be in a good state ourselves, or we've really got nothing to offer the world. And that goes for so many areas of self-development.
Less to offer the world.
Yeah, less to offer the world. What I mean is kind of, we're not much good to others if we're a mess and a wreck ourselves because we're so overwhelmed or frazzled or angry, which is, that's the fate of a lot of people who are repressing those things for themselves. They are angry and pissed off and resentful, and then that's bad for your health.
Yeah, they're living that word should. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. They're living that word by should. They're like they should, and it's not. It's not what you're supposed to be doing. That's not what life is supposed to be about.
Yeah. Do you have another one you'd like to share with us? Another of your 10 proven ways?
I have tons of them. Like, for example, volunteering or donating stuff is a great way to increase your happy hormones. And again, I'm not saying you do this thing and you feel joyful. I'm saying that you do these things and you feel content, which a lot of people are really far away from content when you look at the spectrum there.
Sure.
They're like bummed out, privately grieving about things that they're not aware they're grieving about, depressed. And to get to where you can be content is a wonderful place to be.
Mm-hmm.
So going someplace and volunteering, whether you read at a nursing home or help at a soup kitchen. One of the things I do here, because in Connecticut it gets cold in the winter, is in the off season I look for places like discount places that will sell blankets for $5, and I'll get these fleece throw things for $5, and I buy a bunch of them and I throw them in the back of my car. And when I'm driving along and you see a person who has a sign out saying that they need help, I hand them a blanket, and they look so surprised and happy, and I figure they'll either use it or they'll trade it for something. So that makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm helping somebody. I happen to be I've always been in a service business. So I was a teacher for 27 years. So I always felt like I was helping somebody. So that always made me feel good.
Yeah.
And when I left teaching, one of the things that drove me, because I left teaching so I could become the next great novelist, but I missed the classroom so much, and I missed that feeling of helping people that I jumped right back into trying to do that. I held a retreat for moms and their teenage daughters so that they could navigate their relationship.
Yeah, nice.
So I like helping people. My other book, How to Keep Your Daughter from Slamming the Door, that is a book for helping people.
Yeah.
So now my parenting coaching, again, puts me in the position of helping people. And these things make me feel good, and they keep my happy hormone levels up, and they make me feel happy about my life and contented. Donating stuff, all the people who are in the pandemic, you keep hearing about how they all started going through their closets and rummaging through things and decluttering and donating stuff. It didn't go to the garbage. It's an effort to get it loaded up and take it to a donation center and fill out the paperwork. And I mean, they went through that effort, and that made them feel better in this pandemic. It was just an instinctive thing that people were doing. And they didn't walk away thinking, well, I just donated stuff, so now I'm feeling better. They just did it.
And the feeling better comes automatically. And I think as well, going back to that interruption thing, that's like equivalent to pulling yourself out of the wallowing as well. You're thinking about someone else instead of wallowing, excuse me, in your own difficulties or your own problems. It shifting your mindset as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the term ripple effect, because the idea of dropping a rock in some water and the ripples continue and continue. All these things have multiple benefits for us, that for physically and mentally and emotionally and spiritually. It just, even if it's, I keep telling people, you don't have to believe to have the positive effect. Just do it. Even minor stuff. When you're out and you hold the door open for somebody, that creates happy hormones in you. It's not rocket science, but it is science.
Yeah, it's interesting. So many people think that in order to serve, that they've got to have some earth-shattering purpose within it. And often it's those little tiny things we can do that boost our own sense of well-being, whether it's we're looking at it as hormones or just like a nice little buzz we got from a kindness that we've offered or received from someone. But all of those little things, they add up, don't they, to a happier life.
There was a teacher who had a classroom next to me when I was young. I was actually, it was the year I was pregnant, so it was 30 years ago. And he was this older codger kind of guy, just he was a math teacher and not like anybody I'd ever met before. Drove a Mustang and he was kind of rough around the edges, but he loved the kids and he motivated them and worked really well with them. And he told me once that he had these philosophies, like he never raked leaves. He said, the Lord put him there, the Lord will take him away. He's that kind of guy, right? Every time you went by him in the hallway, you say, hi, Eddie, how you doing? And he'd go, fantastic. And what does that do to you when you hear that?
Yeah, you smile and you
grin, right?
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to do that because I liked that response. So I didn't say fantastic. So I'd say fabulous because I didn't want to copy him, But the thing is, when people say to me, how you doing? Because they're just doing it. It's like a polite acknowledgement. They're not really curious. They say, how you doing? I go, fabulous or wonderful or incredible or this is the best day ever. They grin at me. And all of a sudden I'm in this happiness feedback loop with them.
Yeah.
I made them react. Their reaction makes me react. I grin back at them and they react again, all in that little span of time when you're walking by somebody and your shoulders pass.
Nice. Just a little thing, isn't it? But it can have a positive impact, especially when you consider that ripple affecting that person and they go on and affect the next person that they come into contact with. And so these little things really can have a wide-ranging impact.
When I was a teacher, in some class I took, they said, for some kids, nobody speaks to them the whole entire day at school. They just slip through the cracks. They walk around the edges. They put their head down. Well, not their head. They put their chin down in the class, Yeah. So once I heard that, teachers where I'm at are required to stay in the hallway in between classes so you can monitor what's going on out there. I made it my job to say hi to as many kids who walk by me, even ones I didn't know, every single break to make sure that all those kids had somebody acknowledging them. And I didn't understand it at the time, but I was also feeding my soul, making myself feel better and creating happy hormones there. Because I had this little mini mission for the 3 minutes in between classes to reach and touch so many kids, as many kids as I could.
And then that also creates that other feedback loop when maybe next year they're going to be in your class and you've already created a good rapport with them with just the tiniest little effort, just a simple acknowledgement where they already kind of know you and think, hey, she's nice. I remember her. She talked to me in the hall for no reason, but you've already created a nice encounter.
For some bizarre reason, that thought had never crossed my mind. It's so obvious.
So
I never thought of it.
I am all about techniques and practices and the kind of stuff I talk about on this podcast and in my membership, all sorts of ways that we can or techniques and practices we can use to uplift our well-being. So I know that you've got quite a few up your sleeve as well. So would you share a few techniques that people can use to generate happy hormones in their bodies, like you've been talking about with me so far?
Absolutely. So first of all, I'd like your listeners to just for 1 second, think inward about the area between your throat and your belly button. Just take a second and see what that feels like right now, because my science mind, I'm saying you need before and after so you can chart your progress here, right? So
Yep.
you're taking a pre-assessment here to see how that feels, okay?
Yep.
So it doesn't matter what it is, it's just how it feels. All right, so here's your first one. I call it the fake smile. When you smile, the movement of the muscles in your face trigger the nerves there, and those nerves run to the brain, and the brain says, oh, triggering happy hormones, and it triggers the hormones in the brain and in your gut, okay? Well, it turns out that if you fake smile, your body can't tell the difference. So what I'd like the audience to do right now, if you would, is just pretend to smile. Just fake a grin.
We're doing that now.
Fake a grin and then stop and then grin again and then stop and then grin again. And notice if you feel any sensation in your gut, like a little tingle or quiver of this is silly or whatever.
Yeah, I felt a little fluttering around my solar plexus area.
That's exactly where I feel it.
Kind of like a laughing sensation.
No, but that is your squirt of happy hormones. That's what you're feeling. Nice. It's a physical reaction. So you tell the people in your life that when you are going to have a fight with them, the ones that you fight with, because you will fight again, that you're going to try to interrupt the escalation by doing this fake smile. And you demonstrate it to them so that when you find yourself in an escalating fight and you suddenly grin at them, they don't think that you've gone crazy.
Yeah. Or they get angry.
Yeah, angrier. Really. So I would just practice it. Make sure that you do it. When I first fell into this, I would experiment with it everywhere. I'd try it while I was driving. I try it before I open up a door. You know, I would just try it all the time because I'm a science head, and so I experiment. But yeah, that's my favorite one, because you can call on that all the time. And it doesn't have to be a sincere smile. You could just grit your teeth and stretch your lips, and it does the same thing. Your body can't tell the difference.
Nice. I like that one.
The fake smile. Okay, and here's technique number 2.
Okay.
A powerful, strong, noisy exhalation. It's like, you've heard the phrase sigh of relief.
Yep.
I call it sigh of release. So just take a quick inhale and go, breathe it out, noisy. Drop your shoulders when you do it. And notice that feeling of relief in your belly. This is also used in yoga. They use these audible breaths because it physically makes happy hormones in your body, and you can feel it. Then my third one is, might be a little bit hard to picture, but if you're looking straight ahead, what you're going to do is cast your eyes upward without moving your head. I don't want you to tilt your chin. I just want you to raise your eyes upward like you're looking to the sky. And that creates a set of happy hormones also. So if you just take a second, if you're driving, don't do it now.
Yeah.
Everybody else, just take a second and just look upward, and then look back down and look back upward and look back down. And you'll feel that same little generating feeling in your stomach.
Yeah, that's a good one. I use that one all the time in my guided meditations, and we use that in hypnosis as well. It's an instant way to put you into that relaxed alpha state.
See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I use that all the time.
If you put them all together, what do you have?
Ooh, A super powerful buzz.
You have a hissy fit. Think about your teenagers, right? Rolling their eyes, exhaling, and grinning sarcastically at you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now you know what's actually going on with them. They are self-soothing. In a situation where they're feeling backed in a corner or angry or whatever, those are pressure releases for them.
Wow, that's really interesting.
I
Because
know.
most parents would get annoyed seeing the eye
Yes,
rolling and the exhaling and that would be a trigger almost for most parents. But you've just given it a total turnaround there.
exactly. And if the parents have, and I am in that group, right? It used to drive me crazy when my daughter rolled her eyes. I wish I'd known this back then. But what I know now is that if you have the conversation with your kids and you share these three techniques, the looking up, the fake smile, the casting your eyes upward, and the sigh of release, if you share those things with your kids and say, it's a hissy fit, that's what you're actually doing, then you can say to them, the next time I see you doing that, I will recognize what it really is. I'm not saying I'm not going to be triggered by it because that's my habit, but I'm going to try to not to be triggered by it and understand that you're really distressed and you're trying to relieve your distress.
Nice.
So what you and I need to work on is a way for you to do that in public, because you can't do that in front of your teachers. So you and I, we are going to address this together because we're a team, mother and daughter, father and son, mother and son, father and daughter. We're a team, and we're going to figure out ways for you to relieve your stress in a stressful situation. But when you're at home and you're doing this, I'm going to do my best to understand that you're in a distressed mode and that you need some help instead of taking it personally.
Yeah, that's nice. I really like that one. That's a big shift. And you can even apply that not even to your children, but say you're out and you meet someone and you can tell that they're getting frustrated or whatever, and they're doing the eye rolling thing. It just gives you a little moment to pause and think, okay, well, I'm just going to let it go. And that's what we almost always need to do in these situations, is not take it personally, right?
Exactly. Or to say, I wonder what's going on with them.
So there is a lot of weirdness going on in the world at the moment, and I feel really sorry for kids and the way that this dang virus is affecting them. I don't know how everyone is managing to stay sane within it all, but could you just give me a little info on how parents can help make their children feel more comfortable emotionally with all that's going on in these trying times?
Yes, I have lots of suggestions for that. First of all, this first one I'm about to say, I don't say to people in person at all. I'm saying this to a general audience because then I know you're not taking it personally. But I can't tell you how many times over the last year and a half I've heard people say, I'll be so glad when we're back to normal. I'll be so glad when this is over. I'll be so, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's a better way to be looking at this. I think that the way we need to be looking at this is that the new normal is change, and that we're going to change and change and change and change.
Wow.
And that's what we need to wrap ourselves around, not when is this going to be over? Because when is this going to be over means you are yearning for something else. And that yearning creates anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And that yearning trickles down to your kids as this message: things aren't right yet, and I'm worried until they are. So your kids aren't hearing those words specifically. That's just the way they're receiving it, and they're going off having private anxiety. And anxiety is rocketing in our children across the board. So now that I've said all that, one of the reasons why I've been so content with all this, I mean, partly it was because 2019 was so horrible for me, but partly is because I understood that this was about change. And people are saying, oh, we're out of school now, but we'll be back in a month. I'm like, stop counting on that. Stop setting your kids up for this is temporary and things will go back to normal. And okay, they made a different change and this is temporary and things are going to be back to normal. And okay, we're going to finish school this way and this is temporary, but we're going to be back to normal. It makes their kids think that what's going on right now, they should not be satisfied with.
Yeah.
That they should be anxious about. So here's my solution. The conversation should be, you know what? Change is what normal is. And I want to remind you, this is still the conversation. I want to remind you that you go through change every year. I mean, look at you now compared to where you were last year. Think of how you were 5 years ago. I mean, we're changing. So this is just another change. It's not that big a deal. Every fall, you start a new school year. It's a huge change. It's new teachers, it's new classrooms, it's new classmates. Everything is different. And nobody gets upset about that. So let's just chill. And at the end of every school year, there's a big change because you're leaving that grade behind and you're starting your summer. Nobody gets flustered about that. So let's not get flustered about these changes. So we're going back to school. Fine, it's a change. You're going to embrace it. I'm going to have your back. And if something needs to be addressed and I don't know how to handle it, I'll find somebody who does. So you don't have to worry about it. It's just another change. And if we end up leaving school and having to go back work, being at home again, it's just another change. It'll be fine. And don't worry, I've got your back. And again, if there's something I don't know how to handle, I will find someone who does, and then we will handle it. So you don't have to worry. There are going to be changes. There are going to be changes all the way through your life. So this is great practice for learning how to roll with it. So
Nice.
The way it was before when we were in school and everything was the same, you never had this advantage of this opportunity to embrace change and figure out how to adjust to it. This is really great. So let's embrace the change, whatever is the next change. And by the way, my child, what do you think is going to be the next big change? And then bring them into the conversation. And then you could say to them, how does your best friend think about change? How do you think they're handling change? What do you think you could say to your friend to help them feel better about change? How do you think your friend's parents are handling change? And all those conversations will allow you to have insight to the way your child is viewing things, like when they're talking about the way other people should be doing it.
I think that's really interesting. It's a paradigm shift.
Yes. I think that's why me and my husband are so content, because we're all like, yeah, there's going to be more change. There's going to be more change. And they're saying, okay, everybody's going to do this. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm going to wait and see how that goes. And yep, everybody's going to change. And it's change. We constantly change.
Yeah.
So,
and lots of people don't like to change, do they?
No,
they resist
but they
it.
do change. But they do change. They age.
Yeah.
They learn things. That's all change.
Yeah.
They change their diet. They change the TV shows they watch. They change the politicians they follow. They're changing all the time.
Yeah.
But they're not acknowledging the change. So it feels like, well, if I'm acknowledging this change, then it's something different. My stance is that you say, this is just another one of the changes, instead of saying, oh no, it's a change.
Yeah. And that's one of those big things just about our evolution as a whole, is that we have to adapt and be open. And the way that we successfully evolve is by adapting.
Exactly.
So, Deborah, where can people find out more about you and get your books?
My books are basically available anywhere, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, independent bookstores. So you can pretty much get them anywhere. if you're having a hard time finding one, just contact me and I'll send you one signed. And
Nice.
let's see, because I can sell them from my website. My website is deborahanndavis.com.
Yeah.
And I have a free book there for any of your listeners. They can pick up if they go to the section where you sign up for my newsletter, Mary Meddling. You may have noticed I like to stick my nose in other people's business. But if you sign up for my newsletter, you can actually get a copy of How to Get Your Happy On.
Nice. Oh, that's really good. So I just want to say then that's DeborahAnnDavis.com, and that's Ann without the E. So it's Deborah with an H and then AnnDavis.com. Well, Deborah, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us and for giving us so many ways that we can take charge of our happiness and uplift our well-being. It's been a real pleasure talking with you today, and thanks so much.
Oh, my pleasure. It always makes me happy to make other people happy.
And on that happy note, it only remains for me to thank you so much for spending your time with us today. I really do appreciate it. You'll find all the links to Deborah's site in the show notes, and you can also download her free book, How to Get Your Happy On, that we've been talking about today. You can sign up to her newsletter and get that book. And I wish you a wonderful week ahead, and bye for now. Thanks so much for listening and for sharing this podcast and for subscribing and leaving me a lovely 5-star review on iTunes. Those things really help to get the podcast out there so that it can serve more people. If you have any questions or would like me to address a certain topic, I'd love to hear from you. You can email me at info@theinspirationcloud.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week. Don't forget to join Better Than Happy Zone for just $1. Go to betterthanhappyzone.com. I look forward to seeing you in the zone.